The audience, good afternoon from here, from Dhaka, and assalamu alaikum shabaike. Today we just got sorry for technical difficulty. We are just late by 10 minutes. That should be all right. So we have our distinguished guest today. So starting day 2. So yesterday we got tremendous response from you. And thanks for watching us. And our effort will be very fruitful if you actually can learn from us. So we are running our session number 9 today. In this session, we'll be discussing on ethical entrepreneurship, and we'll be discussing on why ethics and morality in business is very important. As an entrepreneur, what actually you should do and why you should be empathetic. And we'll be covering on the ethics in business, and at last there are some moral issues. We got our guest today, distinguished guest, Susanna, who is the founder of Moral Fairground, Melbourne, Australia. So other than making delay, because we are already late, so I'm inviting my guest here today in the screen. Hello, Susanna. How are you?
Hello. How are you, Rafiuddin? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you after 2 years, I think. So I'm good. Right. I'm good. So how's everything going over there in Melbourne? It is windy, cold.
It's cold. Well, it's not too bad. We're not having a really cold winter. It's quite nice, and but it's winter, and we're all in lockdown. So
everyone is in lockdown everywhere because of this COVID time.
That's
Actually,
right.
we're doing this summit in such a time where we cannot meet physically. Normally, summit means lots of knowledge sharing, lots of fun, and meeting new friends physically, face to face. But in this summit, we are undone. We have to actually do everything online. So just tell us something about yourself and what you do in Melbourne.
Yes.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm the founder of Moral Fairground, and Moral Fairground is a social enterprise that was set up in 2009. And our role is to bring people, communities, and businesses together. They want to have a positive impact in the world. And so we're like a vehicle, and we advocate for good social causes, for ethical consumerism. And we do this by running a number of events, something similar to this. For example, we're going to be doing soon a conference that will touch on issues very similar to this. But we also run festivals and other events. And the idea is that if we come together to discuss and possibly create some change, we have a better chance of creating a better world rather than working all individually to do that. But for the last 10 years, I suppose the focus has also been around the fair trade movement. We started off with that and supporting fair trade causes around the world, and that's where we originally started.
Yeah, that's really very good. As you said, fair trade movement. So I was actually quite lucky to attend a conference in 2016 in University of Geelong in Melbourne. That was quite. I'm still connected with the friends. So okay. I was happy as well. I was quite lucky to be in the fair trade committee in my Ladgrove University. And actually, fair trade is very much needed for the developing countries, because it is commonly seen that from developed countries, say Australia, Canada, they actually source products from developing country like Bangladesh. And we are the number one in terms of size. We are the number one garments manufacturing company, garment supplying company for rest of the world. You can remember Rana Plaza collapse at the time in 2014, I think. So fair trade movement is very much needed for the rights, for the benefits of Bangladesh. Yes. So I was actually trying to bring this fair trade movement in Bangladesh, but I don't know where to contact. So maybe you will be the right one to bring that in Bangladesh, fair trade movement. So can you please tell us something about fair trade movement and activities and Moral Fairground?
So what I like to do, I like to share a screen. I prepared a little bit of a presentation, and I'll go through, because one of the things we need to consider, if I can find the screen, here you go, is can you see it? No, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's coming. It's here. Yeah,
it's coming. Okay.
So just click on the slide.
Yeah.
Yep. We can see that. So please. Yep.
Okay. So the reason I prepared a screen is because when we're talking about ethical entrepreneurship there's it's very complicated. It's not just a one sort of fits all type of thing. So I want to start with this because I want to also explain my experience and why I also started this, why I got involved. If you have a look at this particular quote from Martin Luther King, before you finish eating your breakfast this morning, you'll depend on half of the world. And this is the way our universe is structured. We're going to have peace on earth until we recognise this basic fact. In the morning, we drink coffee provided by our South Americans, or tea by our Chinese, or cocoa by our West African. And before we leave our jobs, we are already indebted to more than half the world. When I first came across this quote, I realised the importance of ethics and morality in business. I realised that everything that is traded, everything that we consume, everything that we buy and sell depends on a very long supply chain of people and communities from around the globe. And therefore, we are all very much interconnected. Really, without the farmer picking the fruit, without the roaster roasting the coffee, for example, and the person making the coffee, we wouldn't have the products that we are accustomed to. And so the question was raised for me at that time when I first came across this, since when, was driven to that, is why was there such a disparity between, the farmers, for example, getting paid a very low amount of money for the raw products, the manufacturing, the people that, like you mentioned, the people in the Rana Plaza, the people that make things, why they don't have the same rights as everyone else, when we are all equally important in this chain to be able to achieve that. And that was my driving force when we started Moral Fairground, very much about finding out what can we do to have this, to create a system, a better system. What are some of the things that we can do as people and as businesses to have a better system? So, and when we talk about ethics in business, because I know you mentioned you wanted to, to touch on this, it's really about the decisions that we make about what is right and what is wrong in business. For example, if I'm a manufacturer in T-shirts, is my responsibility just to make enough money or a lot of money just for myself, as a business, or is it my responsibility to make a good amount of money, but also to look after my employees, to make sure I look after the environment in production and the supply chain? So it's not a, here you go. It's as simple as that, because there's a lot of layers in this supply chain, and it can be quite difficult for a business to make those decisions. But ultimately, it's not rocket science. It's what's right and what's wrong, and we should know that. But people get driven by money. So to really understand why it's also important to think about ethics and morality in business, why it's more particularly important now than ever before, is because when we look at the consumer trends right now, there are lots of studies out there, and I just pulled some figures out just to show you here. But there are now, 52% of the population are generally driven by the price, the deal, the features when they buy in a product. But there's a very big growing number of people, and that's 48% of the population, even more. And I'm talking about globally here. There might be certain countries that are different. I'm just talking in general. That make purchases based on their values. Where they come from, who made it, how was it produced. The consumers are pushing the agenda right now globally. And they believe that companies have a responsibility to issues relating to the environment, relating to people, social. It could be even about recycling the end product. So the consumers are pushing this agenda, and if you're not a business there that is ready to respond to this, you're going to be out of the market completely. So whilst it's important to look at from a perspective, I need to be ethical, it's also a business decision that you need to make, because otherwise you're going to miss out potentially a whole heap of business.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? Because the reality is that I know in Australia, some of the statistics are global, but like I said, I'm not sure what it will be like in Southeast Asia, in Asia. But I know that in the Western countries, consumers are pushing, and in particular after the Rana Plaza incident, people were making the retailers responsible. In Australia, people were speaking to what we have, the Kmart shops, and we're saying, well, you're responsible for this. You need to fix it. So they were not going to the Rana Plaza and the people making the clothes. The retailers were being made responsible. So I just wanted to share some interesting facts here as well. And you can see here. 86% of consumers believe the company should not only support social causes, but also take a stance on social issues. So they believe it's not just about supporting. As a company, you need to believe in what you're supporting. 64% of people believe companies should provide support for issues that align with the product or services they offer. And so on. I mean, have a look at this. The next generation Z who, begin entering the workforce very soon prefer to buy from sustainable brands or what they believe in. And it's a growing trend. So ethics in business make good business sense, because not only are you attracting the right consumers, you're attracting a good workforce, you're ensuring high quality products and services, and attracting the right customers. Please stop me at any time if you have any questions, right? Because I'm just going through my presentation now.
Okay.
So when we ask ourselves about what is ethical entrepreneurship, the consumer pressure, I look at it from a consumer pressure, because, if you don't have pressures from anybody, no one really moves. Humans are sort of lazy in nature. If you run a business and everything is going fine, you're not going to change it. But consumers are now starting to take a stand. And because of that, we now have seen the rise of many different types of businesses. The conscious consumer business, the fair trade business, the business with purpose, there's all sorts of things. At the core, an ethical business, whether it's a fair trade or a social enterprise, the values and the mission is to deliver social or environmental outcome, or to have an impact on that. So I just wanted to show you, at the moment, what type of ethical business exists, because I'm not sure what it's like in Bangladesh, but definitely around, in Australia, they're quite prevalent, and some of the other parts of the world as well. I mean, the fair trade movement has been around quite a long time. It started off, I believe, in the 40s, and it's possibly the oldest certification, ethical certification, because they are all certified type of businesses out there. So fair trade predominantly deals with producers and craft people or farmers. So that's the difference between this and some of the others. So a social enterprise model is a business primarily that has social objectives. So a business is created, revenue that's generated through the business activities is to tackle a social issue. So you might have a company or an enterprise that really wants to support people with disabilities. So they create a business that provides employment for people with disabilities. And then money is then reinvested back to support these people and the work they do, and that's a social enterprise. And what we have seen recently is that because, fair trade and social enterprise, fair trade works predominantly with farmers, social enterprise, social issue, what we've seen recently is that there's a new kind of a certification that's come around for any business. Because what we've seen, a lot of them say, well, I'm not a social enterprise, I'm not a fair trade business, but I really want to have an impact. How can I, as just a normal business, let's say an IT business, make an impact? And so the B Corp certification, or the B Corporation certification, was born. It's still fairly new here in Australia, started in the US, but this one is designed for any business that wants to have a positive impact. And what they will look at is, how do I work internally? How do I, how do I treat my employees, my staff? What do I provide for them? And then what do I do outside of the workplace to have a positive impact? And it might be as simple as, I donate a portion of my income or a portion of my profits to a particular cause.
So here I have some questions. Say, to get a company to apply for Fair Trade certificate and B Corp certificate. So can you please share us what are the requirements that they actually look for, and where to apply to get certified by Fair Trade and to get apply for getting B Corp certification?
Definitely. So I'll start with the B Corp and social enterprise. So B Corp, there's a global organization called B Corp. Now, I know that they then have branches around the world, and perhaps, I'm not sure if you have a branch in Bangladesh, and you might not have it. But there's an assessment criteria. So there's a document you go through them, and there's a document that you have to complete, and that has question including, what is your work diversity? Have you got a diverse workforce? What are the conditions? And then if you pass this strict criteria and certification, you will get your certification, right? So at the moment, as far as I know, B Corp, as I said, is sort of newish, but if you look for B Corporation US, you'll see that it sort of stemmed from there. They've got a branch in Australia that looks after certification in Australia. They've got branches in other countries that also looks after certification in this country. Now, certification is important because it holds people accountable. There's a lot of businesses that are doing good. It doesn't mean that they're not good because they're not certified. For some businesses that are small, certification might not be a good thing. It might cost too much money. But for a large organization, it makes people accountable. It reminds you of the things that you need to do to be an ethical business. Social enterprise is very similar. Okay? So social enterprise might start as a not-for-profit, and then it's also got a for-profit arm. So the for-profit arm runs the business, and the not-for-profit arm is what provides support and supports social causes. So, for example, you employ people with disability, but the social arm will provide education for those people.
Yeah,
Fair trade.
Okay, yeah, fair trade.
Yes, fair trade is slightly more complicated because fair trade's got a few different layers. So fair trade, you have the farming communities, the coffee producers, for example, or the cotton producers, and they work under the fair trade conditions. So they get audited and certified. And then you've got the retailers or the wholesaler, the people that buy from the fair trade community. They also get audited. And to get a fair trade certification, you would have to, again, in Australia, we have, Fair Trade Australia, New Zealand. That is the body represented here in Australia, and they provide certification for the Australian companies. So, for example, if you're a large supermarket or if you're a closed retailer and you want to buy products from a fair trade community, then you would go through the Fair Trade Fair Trade Australia, New Zealand company, and they'll organise the certification for you. So there's two layers to fair trade. It's the farming that needs to be certified, and there's also the people that are selling. And,
organization. So here I'm just going back to your activity. Say in Australia, say you said your Moral Fair Ground is conducting some courses, classes. So are they online? So our students can join as well if they like. Can you please explain something like that?
Yes. So we touch on a variety of different topics. So we have monthly networking events, and those are now online, and we tackle a lot of different topics from, regenerative farming discussion. Our next event will be on making home housing affordability. There's a very big issue here in Australia, for example, on housing affordability for women over 45. And so that's, every month we have different topics. Then we have the Ethical Enterprise Conference, which will happen on the 26th to the 28th of October. And there's also the early pitch competition, the Ethical Enterprise Award, and the festival. It's all on our website. As we put them up, you can have a look. Some of those events are free, like our festival will be a free public event online this time. But some of the others are sort of paid events. So, and we bring them out every month or so. So you just have to keep up or sign up to the newsletter and things like that.
And in the screen, I just shared your website. So here I can see your beautiful face, smiling face as always. So
Good.
there's ethical entrepreneur pitch. So our students can apply there as well. Then call for papers. Yep. Can you please explain it?
The early ethical entrepreneurial pitch competition at the moment, it's for Australian-based enterprises with an Australian ABN number, but they can have impact in communities globally. So it's we haven't opened it up to the world yet, but it doesn't mean we can't do it in the future. It's just that for the sponsors and people providing prizes that we've done that. But I think that there's opportunities there to open it up even, next year for a global community as well. We're seeing so much entrepreneurship coming up. So basically these are any enterprises that are at startup or less than 24 months sort of in trading, that have an idea that can potentially have positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And so they need to demonstrate that in the application. How is that going to be achieved? And then once they apply, finalists are selected, they pitch their idea at the conference on the 28th of October. And there will be a selection of judges. They will pick the winner, and the winner will get it's like 12 months worth of mentorship to get them from their idea stage to where they need to be to start up the business or to develop it further. Some of the judges might even be able to find funders for them. So it's a really, really great initiative, and we've seen some great people coming out of that. And we also got the Ethical Enterprise Award. That's for existing enterprises that will be opening soon. One of those that won the awards, it's going to be a speaker at your conference, Stephanie Bullard. She was a winner of the awards a while ago with 7 women. So it will give you a good idea for those people that are going to hear a talk about what type of enterprises, have entered or are entering.
So in this time, so how are you working? The conferences, everything should be online, right? And it is really great. If you work from home, I think that is kind of good thing as well for everyone. You can organize many things. Say if I organize this summit face to face, I had to take care of lots of people coming from overseas. But in online, I'm just staying in my bedroom and I can organize the summit from bedroom. That is really good.
Yes, I agree. I also think, initially when COVID hit, I was being in the event space, we very much about people and getting people together. So it's not an easy thing to do. But what I realize is the possibility that this have opened, speaking to people around the globe, for example, that potentially you couldn't if you were running an in-person event. It will be difficult to bring everyone together. So I think you really need to look at the positive side. And I'm also seeing a lot of really good entrepreneurship coming out of this. People coming up with amazing concepts and ideas and opportunities that for new business initiative, in particular using technology as well. I'm seeing a lot of that. So I think you got to look at it from the positive side, and yes, and try and make the best out of an event online.
That's really very great and inspiring. As you're running that moral fairground, so we'll be happy if you actually can open one arm in Bangladesh or maybe join collaboration. So knowledge sharing, then experience sharing could be a great thing as well, I think. What do you think?
I think it'd be great. The more people we can bring together in this movement, the better the opportunity will be for people all over the world. We are a global society. We should all be treating each other with equal respect, and we should all be treating, whether it's, like I said, the farmer or the person selling the coffee, with equal respect, because we all rely on each other to live and survive. So I can't see why I do not believe, and I can't stand the fact that there's disparity in this world. And for me, my journey has always been about how can we do better? And the only way to do better is to really understand each other. And sometimes when we are different, people think, oh, there's the thing that we think we are different, but at the end of the day, we're all very much the same. We're all looking for the same thing. And so I think to open something up or start a movement there, I think would be wonderful. If you got a lot of farming communities in Bangladesh? And,
farming and garments manufacturing as well. So in that case, say, ethics is very important for our country people, and because in garments manufacturing, and our farmers are ill-treated so far, I believe. So they should get more. We should think about the farmers. We should think about the garments workers, and so that we can actually work for their rights. So to see the compliance issues, there is a global company named Accord Alliance. They actually maintain the compliance issues. But for farmers, there is no one who is looking for the compliances. What will be the wages? So ultimately, there will be a body in Bangladesh like Fair Trade Movement or others, a B Corp certification as well. So these two things are very much needed in Bangladesh. And I'll be happy you'll assist us as well to bring that in Bangladesh. And that'll be really a great thing.
Yes, I also want to mention that, just bringing it back to that Rana Plaza, because sometimes we think, where do you put the blame? And just bringing back, you can bring an organization to a country, but there's also the political side of it. So for example, when we had the Rana Plaza, we had an event where we called some of those retailers and asked them to explain, what was happening in that space. And while everyone's got the best interest at heart, what one of the issues that they raised was that when they go in, for example, in Bangladesh, and they go and contract someone to make so many T-shirts or whatever it might be, the company in Australia might request that, for all those people that work for our company, we want to make sure they get paid right, the right working conditions, all this stuff. The problem is if the law in a particular country says, well, no, it doesn't matter if you don't pay your workers the right amount of money, then what is the incentive to the manufacturer to do that? So it's a very complex thing. And that's why you need some of this certification to then go back to a government level and advocate for this change. So
and
I think
and there should be some authority as well who will be doing moral policing.
Exactly.
So like Accord is doing, after the Rana Plaza collapse, they actually become more aware that the compliance should be top priority. So for others, other farmers and other organizations where there is lots of people who are working and living on a daily basis, they should actually complain to someone who will be actually taking care of this of their interest, like ombudsman system in Australia as well. I saw if anyone lose their job, they can actually go there to the ombudsman, and actually he can fight with the help of ombudsman. So for the farmers, there should be some authority. They can do moral policing on behalf of that, and so farmers' wages can be ensured. That was my point, actually.
And the fair trade movement will be perfect for that. Obviously, the certain, it depends what they produce, because fair trade certified mainly commodities at the moment. But there is the World Fair Trade Organization that you can get an accreditation for a company that supports craft people and people making goods rather than producing coffee or tea or rice or something like that. But definitely that's the, I agree. A body like this would make a big difference. That's right. That's fair trade in Australia. But if you go to World Fair Trade Organization, you'll see that because the World Fair Trade Organization is the one that basically dictates or sort of governs. It's like the UN. It's like the UN of of the social issues and things like that. So, have you got the website out? Yeah, that's Fair Trade Australia. Yeah.
So I can see that fair trade is in India. Fair trade is there as well, but we have just 1 hour air distance from India. So I think someone might be interested. Someone from my country will be interested to bring fair trade international in Bangladesh as well, because here you can see they focus more on lots of agricultural products as well, food, coffee, beans.
Yes.
And in our country, we produce lots of fresh fruits as well. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you go to the World Fair Trade Organization, they are the one that will probably issue. So basically, you have to set up a fair trade certification body in your country under the world, by going through the World Fair Trade Organization. And then you can start sort of discussing how you can bring that in place in Bangladesh. I think it needs to be in your own country because, like I said, there's every country's got their own policies. So it's, you mentioned there's one in India, but it might not be suitable for Bangladesh, for example. So
in South Africa, they produce coffee. So ultimately, a fair trade movement for the production of coffee industry there is common. But in our country, we produce more rice. Bangladesh produces rice. So maybe rice, potato, these are mostly densely produced in our country. And ultimately, this could be the great area to work on the fair trade movement. So we're at the very end of our program. Thanks for joining us. And
it's really
great to see you again after a long time. And I still remember I went to a couple of programs. You invited me, and every time, for your information, every time I got your email, but I couldn't reply because I moved back to Bangladesh. But from next time, if anything or any conference is going online, I'll join as well. So last couple of minutes,
Thank you very much.
So say something about our audience who are trying to be an entrepreneur, why they should be an ethical entrepreneur. Just promote that.
Yes, I think ethical entrepreneurship, if you're a young person, it's exciting. Being able to say, I can create change and positive change for this world through the work that I do is very, very exciting. And I think now is the time. Like I said, there's consumers out there looking for these entrepreneurs. There's investors looking for these entrepreneurs. So now is the time for you to start thinking about what change you're going to make in this world.
Thank you very much. And one thing you should remember, our audience, before 10 years, if you are not ethical, you can actually do lots of business being unethical. But nowadays, we are living in the age of digital industry, digital communication, digital world. So if anyone is trying to do unethical things,
they'll be spotted.
People will share that within a second. If you do any bad activity, it will be shared, and ultimately your brand reputation will be damaged. And if you get a fair trade certificate with unethical activity, ultimately you will be properly banned from the community. So that's why, as we are moving in the digital industry, we have to be very honest. If we cheat someone, people will share that. So there is no point, there is no way to be unethical. Try to be ethical and try to be an entrepreneur, and then try to be an ethical entrepreneur. Thank you, Susanna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How is your family? Are they good?
Everyone's good. Working from home. We all work from home like everyone else. But yes, I think we'll survive all this and we'll become better people for it.
Thank you very much. Best of luck and see you soon in our next program.
You too. Bye.